Imagine, if you will, checking into a hotel for a business trip. Your coworkers are in a different, newer section of the building, but you seem to be in a section full of oddly dressed partiers who seem oblivious to the no smoking rules and the absence of a pool. As you continue toward your room, you begin to realize that all of these people circling around you are ghosts, and they're hanging out in the hallways because something far worse is lurking in your room. Let's talk to our repeat guest, Frantz, about his experiences in haunted lodgings. Today, on Homespun Haints. Hello, Hainted Loves. Welcome to Homespun Haints. I'm Becky.
And I'm Diana.
And we are recording again from Diana's adorable little Airbnb carriage house here in downtown Roswell, which is decidedly not haunted.
At least I haven't been haunted in a whole week here, so I'm guessing that I won't be.
But that's okay, because tomorrow we will, well, it'll be in the past for you all listening, but we will be flying to Philadelphia to investigate the Eastern State Penitentiary.
Ooh, are we investigating?
Oh,
I thought I was just going to stand there and look like a tourist.
That's usually how I do it.
That's how I investigate. Yep. Come haunt me, please.
Close my eyes. Of course, our guest today is going to tell us why that may be a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't think he would go to Eastern State Penitentiary. Probably smart, yeah.
He didn't even like coming to my haunted office because of all the people that were wandering through that only he could see. Yes, in case you don't know who we're talking about, we're going to be having Frantz on repeat guest.
Yes.
He is a psychic medium, reluctant psychic medium, yeah. He does not do it for a living. He has a corporate job, but he just so happens to be very, very in tune with the spirit world. We're excited to have Frantz back. If you want to check out the first episode that we had Frantz on, it was in season 3. It was called I Am Talking to This Motherfucking Ghost. And yes, this is going to be an R-rated episode, so if you've got little ones in the car, I don't know, tell them to wear their earmuffs.
Okay. We're about to get a little spicy.
A little spicy. You'll notice that my voice sounds a little different. I don't know what it is about this room, but my voice sounds like really raspy and deeper. When I was editing the last thing we recorded here, Diana, the AI thought that we were the same person.
I did notice that our voice sounded similar, but that's also because we're on the same track, no?
No, it's not. We are not the same person. We have not melded into one. It's just this room. Strange. However, since Diana has been here in Georgia, she has gotten to experience some of the wildlife that we have here. One of the ways that you know it's fall here in the Atlanta area is that the squirrels start throwing nuts.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this, but like a cat on a hot tin roof, I've got squirrel nuts on a cold tin roof.
Ooh.
Going on all over the place. It kind of startled me the first several times. I must admit it startled me every time. But
so basically what this is, it sounds like the Whomping Willow is outside of your house throwing things.
It's an intense noise.
Yeah, it is. Boom, 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 boom,
yeah.
boom. I don't know what the squirrels are doing.
What are they doing?
They're playing bocce.
Oh, it's terrible. I saw them running across the driveway and burying nuts, and then I saw the crows sneaking over and pulling the nuts up, and just to mess with the squirrels. They weren't eating them.
I love it. So you've experienced squirrels and crows.
And one other larger mammal. Yes, unfortunately, as I was driving home from Becky's house late on Sunday night, I got accosted by a large, hairy, brown deer.
It was a deer, though, not a not deer.
What's a not deer?
It's an Appalachian cryptid.
Oh. What does a not deer do?
It walks on its hind legs.
This one did not do that. So yes, it was a yes deer.
A yes deer.
Yes deer, exactly.
It almost hit you.
It tried.
Man, what is it about these suicidal deer and these angry squirrels?
There must have been something scarier than me in the woods chasing it. I don't know.
No, they just like to do that.
Yeah, well.
I think love is in the air.
Oh, they do. It was Twitter-pated. Perhaps. I don't know. It was the middle of the night, so when do deer get freaky? I'm not from the sticks. I don't know.
I've never seen deer do it.
Really?
Yeah. I guess they go someplace private and not in my front yard. Because they're there every other minute of the day.
That's kind of them.
Front yard, backyard. I'll see a buck. I'll see a deer. They'll run through. And then a few months later, I see a bunch of little fawns. So I know something happened.
Only the evidence of their copulation, not the actual witnessing. Ah, well, I like that better.
Maybe that's what a not deer is. It's the buck thinking there's a phantom doe. That's why it's on its hind legs, kind of gyrating.
I would definitely say not deer to that one, for sure.
Not now, dear. Not now. There's no one there, dear. That's a tree.
Spooky. Oh, yeah. I'm very glad I did not hit a deer in the middle of the night. That would have been annoying. Yeah.
So have you seen any squirrels going at it? Because they're freaky all year round.
I've seen a lot of squirrel nuts, but none in action.
One thing we don't have here in Georgia that Diana and I are very familiar with, speaking of copulating creatures, is the love bugs.
Oh, I'm so glad you don't have those in Georgia. How many years till you get them?
I know, right? With climate change.
Right? It's only a few more years till Florida's underwater, so.
In Florida, if you live in Florida, you know there's this thing called love bug season because there's not really any other seasons in Florida.
That's the only differentiator. Summer, 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 and love bug summer.
Well, there's also hurricane.
Oh, yeah.
Hurricane season.
I guess so.
Love bug season is when you can't drive anywhere without your car getting coated in these black sticky bodies of strange creatures that have 2 heads and 12 legs. It's actually 2.
Yeah.
They fly attached. That's how into each other they are.
Aww.
That's why they're called love bugs, because they're always making love.
If you're gonna end up in traffic getting smushed against the grill of a truck, what a way to go.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, next time you're in Florida and you start seeing these things hitting your windshield, just put on some James Brown and make their last moments a little more fun.
But the best wild copulation I've seen was definitely Galapagos tortoises. It's so slow.
Have you been to the Galapagos?
No, I have not.
So you saw this at the zoo?
Or the Caymans? I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a memorable moment, although I don't remember the context.
How long did this take?
I gave up. I gave up waiting for the final countdown and just decided to move along.
Well, maybe that's why they were going slow. They're like, I can't perform while you're watching. This is a private act.
You think turtles mind? They didn't seem to mind.
Probably didn't even know you were there.
I mean, if you don't have the energy to go very far, you probably get used to not having privacy.
Well, they have very long lifespans, so how long does it take them to do this?
Right? Probably at least 15 minutes, if not more like half an hour or so.
How is that different from humans?
Oh, it's a lot quicker than humans.
Speak for yourself.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say like a month.
It was probably a month. I don't know. I gave up. Like I said, I think I watched for 20 minutes and then said, you know what? I've got probably better things to do with my life than watch tortoises copulate.
You're such a peeping Tom. Oh my god.
I am. When I'm dead, you know what I'm going to be doing.
And we're gonna hear about that here with Frantz today.
Indeed we are, but
we would first like to give a shout out to our patrons.
Thank you, patrons. Because of you guys, this week we got to perform live at the Fern Bank.
And we got to speak for the Lions Club.
Indeed.
in
The
Buckhead.
Buckhead Lions Club. And apparently there was record turnout specifically to listen to our stories. So that's pretty awesome. Thank you to the Buckhead Lions Club for hosting us if you are a member and you found us there. Thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. Hope you aren't too offended by our discussion of various copulating creatures. Diana, we do have a patron to give a shout out to.
Oh, nice.
We want to give a huge shout out to Kara for upping her tier. Thank you so much, Kara. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kara.
And a shout out to Amanda for joining our Patreon.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you guys so much. We are so thrilled that you are here as part of our Patreon during this spooky season.
Yes, and if you have an event during spooky season or after spooky season at which you could use a couple of absolutely freaking gorgeous storytellers, well, you know who to call. Get on our website. If you'd like us at your event, let us know, and maybe, just maybe, we could swing that.
Today on the show, we have a repeat guest. We are so excited to bring back Frantz. You heard him in, was it season 3? I think it was season 3.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, with the episode entitled, I Am Talking to This Motherfucking Ghost. And we had so many requests from you all to bring Frantz back on. So we did. Took us long enough because he's a very haunted guy. He's got a lot going on. He's got a lot to do with the ghost. So we were finally able to lure him back for one evening and one evening only. Special entertainment from Frantz. So, Frantz, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I'm excited to be back. It was such a great time spending that evening with you all and happy to be back again. Unfortunately, they don't have a ghost witness protection program. So it's not like I can just put on my badge and walk out there and say, hey, Becky and Diana, I don't have any more stories because I'm invisible now. But maybe if I try really hard, then I can get to that level, but we'll see. Speaking of my stories, I have really been doing a lot more traveling these days, and whenever you travel and go away is when you're not in your neck of the woods, so to speak, so you're more than likely going to come across all kind of crazy, a lot of weird shit when you hit the road. And I was traveling to Fort Lauderdale and then also to California, and that is where I came across the couple of things I'm going to share with you all today. We're going out mid-fall, Fort Lauderdale, to enjoy a relaxing beach vacation. We're going to just enjoy the sea breeze, and I check into this Airbnb, and as soon as I get there, I immediately have my sensing bells go off like something is off with this place. I open the door, and I don't know if you all have ever walked through a doorway or a threshold of someplace and you feel as though like a part of you gets separated and goes somewhere else, or you feel a little bit dizzy or lightheaded, or you feel like just a sensation like something happened.
That happens to me a lot, friends. Yeah.
Yes. So when that happens, it's usually like something is connecting with you psychically or at a paranormal kind of response. And a portion of you has been moved to that location where that energy or that being is located for you to interact with it. I don't know what everybody else's belief system is, but I believe in multiple dimensional frequencies and all kind of things like that, and that we all are just smushed here in the same space, but on different levels, interacting with each other. So I walk into this Airbnb and I start investigating. Okay, I don't feel like I'm in my body. I feel like I'm lagging behind. I'm starting to get tired really quickly. And then I started having small, slight headaches. Those were all my clues that something's going on. I'm being instigated by a perpetrator in the area psychically. So my first protocol response is, where is it coming from? I go and I start walking around, and my eye gets drawn over to a little altar that is in this Airbnb. And as I'm sitting there, I start, in my mind's eye, start seeing these monks from Tibet. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I'm starting to get cold. I feel like I'm in the mountains. And I'm kind of like, something is off. And then I looked, and there was a shadow on the wall that there was no object there for a shadow to be coming from. So I go and I walk closer up. And at this point, I'm getting goosebumps. And I'm starting to see the lights flicker on and off inside of this Airbnb. Eventually, I come all the way in, and I find, like, I know what I'm looking for. I know it's got to be a cursed object. I know it's got to be an object that has a haunting or a portal or something tied to it. My clue was I felt I was somewhere else. I was not in the room anymore. And because of that, that means that the object that this energy or entity is tied to is not from this area. It's brought from somewhere else. And people will usually get a lot of symptoms like this if they're antiquers, or they go and they get a lot of items from travels and they bring them back. And entities are attached to their favorite items before that just maybe have passed into someone else's belonging, but they still have a resonance with that particular item. And lo and behold, I walk in, there's this huge Nepal statue of like these Buddhas and hand-carved reliefs, and I text the owner, I'm like, this is an interesting statue. Where did you get it from? And in my head, I'm already psychically communicating with these entities, and I'm like, I know I'm in fucking Tibet. I know this is from like at least several hundred years ago. He's like, oh, I got it from, I went to a monastery when I was over in Tibet and I had them ship it to us because these were like the few items that were left from the location that was destroyed. And so, and the first thing is you come across these entities and they're interacting with everyone who's gone into this location. Everybody has like a spectral body. So I'm seeing now little shadows of every single other person who has stayed in this Airbnb that's interacted with this object and not known, because these monks are thinking, I'm going to bring this person into my sacred space so that they can interact with me and tell me what's going on. Why am I not where I used to be? And I now have 30 other people trapped in this room that I'm seeing their silhouettes. So I'm like, okay, so now I have to solve this puzzle and figure out what's going on. And time and space are relative, in my mind anyway. So I could be fucking nuts, but you know, we're all a little crazy to be sane. So I go back in time in my mind. I'm like, when were these people last alive? Because it's probably going to be easier to communicate with them. Our imagination is a very powerful thing. So the only thing I do is I set up a room and I start imagining I'm speaking with them in a time period where they're alive, get a feel for what their area is like, what's the politics, what's going on. Because when you're having a dialogue with the spirit, you don't want to come across sounding like dumb and I don't know what the fuck is going on, especially if they're waiting for you to communicate. They're looking for you because most people aren't communicating with them and they're just kind of lost. So I get the dialogue, I figure out what happened. There was a pillage, it was destroyed in that area. They had put these items in a location for safekeeping, and then it was uncovered by someone else many years later and sold off as a way to make money. Basically, it was robbed from a sacred site and sold in a store. And these things happen all the time, unfortunately. It would have been a potential curse that was there, that on the unbeknown people, it can cause health issues to people when they have a part of their body left behind. It can cause a lot of fatigue, like chronic fatigue syndrome. For some people, it can cause migraines. It can cause a feeling of lethargy, not being able to think and communicate effectively, or just having like brain fog. All of these things can be symptoms of having an active haunting even after you've left the area, if you're psychically still connected to those beings that are still working through there.
I get nauseous. It's so annoying.
And that's because their energy, your solar plexus, or where your stomach and your gut is located, is where we sense and where we feel everything through our spirit. When something else is pushing up against you, that's where you get your gut feeling and your gut instinct from the people that you're interacting with that are alive or dead. Whether it's a spirit or not, everything has an energy field. So when you're interacting with something that's pushing on you really strongly, whether it's saying get the fuck out or hey, what's going on, a lot of the times you will feel that moving inside of your stomach if you are energetically sensitive kind of a person. Or you can also get migraines if they're saying, you're in my space, you need to leave. I don't know what you're doing here. But anyway, an hour passes, we have a chat, I get everything facilitated, and what I had to do was I had to imagine that this place was a new shrine. Because obviously I can't take this object back to the place where it was stolen from. So now I'm in problem solving mode of what do I do to make a solution that's beneficial for everyone here. And not just myself, but these other 20 people who are still, God knows where they are on the planet, but who have stayed here. There's a piece of them stuck in this location as well, in this little portal that's tied to this altar. I psychically created a space of consecration where I brought them in, we broke bread together, we poured water and libations together, and it was a space of, I respect, I'm honoring your culture, please forgive me trespass. Because that's the first thing, is that whether we know it or not, we are not the first people to come across anything in this land, any of these objects. It's been here a lot longer than we have. So I want to always be respectful and say, what can I do to facilitate peace if I have trespassed against you in some kind of a way? And just like with the living person, that goes such a long way with gaining a positive rapport with something. And it's really all about, I believe, building bridges. So after that was done, all of a sudden the light stopped flickering, the shadows on the wall disappear, all my lethargy goes away. I no longer feel like I'm out of my body or stuck somewhere else. And for the whole 4 days, it was like a magical experience. I was there. There were so many synchronicities. I was going places. People would just give me a discount when I went on a restaurant. I would get these amazing recommendations. Then the owner of the property came by and dropped off a welcome basket just randomly. And it was all like the spirits were just grateful and happy to have a positive resolve come from this situation. They're pretty powerful people, even though they're deceased, but they are creating an energy around the area that I feel was like they were bringing in a blessing. I really felt touched when I left there, and I actually bowed to the altar. I'm going back to Florida in a couple of weeks. I'm not saying the same property, but it's so funny when you form friends with entities. They know, just like your animals know before you get home, if you have a camera, they know when you're coming back. These other energies do too, that you form a relationship with. So I already feel them like excited, like I'm going to be back in the area again. So that's a really cool experience. But for someone who's never experienced a cursed object, it could be really scary. You can just be like, why am I having all these physical symptoms? I don't know what's going on. And then you may start getting sick. You may start having things happen in your life like a car accident, or you may start misplacing money, or like a lot of stressful events will start coming up to you. And this is usually how curses will work, in a way to get people to wake up and say, hey, you did something wrong. You need to go back and return whatever you stole or whatever you touched that was not in a good way.
So, Frantz, I have to wonder, because I live in a house full of antiques and I've got a lot of gut problems. So how do I find the object? Like, which one is it? How do I detect that?
A lot of times I do visualizations. Like, I imagine my own life and my own being as a house. So when I look at a representation of my life as a house, I'm looking to see, is my house in good repair? Are the windows creaky? Is the foundation split? Is it a beautiful lawn? Is it a dry spell? And these are all indications of your subconscious telling you, whatever imagery you use, the same thing in your dream language, to tell you what kind of condition is your body and your spirit, your well-being. So if you have the same idea of your physical house and you go visually room by room and you think about which areas feel like a beautiful garden, which areas feel murky or the energy feels off, which areas of the home have a light color or a dark color, and these are all indications of how you can start to investigate your home, because I think everyone's psychic, they just forget. That's just my belief. Once you start getting a vibe of what area it is in the house, then you can start thinking about, if you've ever seen an aura on an object in the house, usually if an object has that, that means that there's something tied to that object, and it's not just the object by itself. And then once you become more sensitive, then you'll start getting like a reaction. So you'll start feeling like you're not welcome when you come here. You may feel pushed back when you approach that object. You may feel drawn in. You may feel like, I don't like being placed with everything else that's next to me. And so you may feel like, I intuitively think I need to put this object somewhere else because it doesn't belong in this area. That's a clue that usually there's something attached to that object or the objects around it, and it doesn't want to fit with wherever it is.
I think that gives me a good jumping off point.
Yeah.
Diana, that mirror, when did you get that?
I really don't know.
Diana has a mirror in a bathroom in her little half bath. And ever since she got it, she's been time tripping in that bathroom.
It's weird.
That's probably a clue.
I'll just replace that mirror. That's fine. It's not that pretty.
Well, so once you've made a connection with something, you've made a bond with it, whether it's positive or negative. So even if you get rid of that mirror, if that spirit has found a liking to your home, the spirit can leave a part of itself in your home and not go when you got rid of that mirror.
Hey now.
So you're going to have to make a deal.
What if I sell the mirror to somebody that the spirit likes more?
You can do that, but if that facilitates you knowing and understanding that that spirit is actually choosing that person and that is actually leaving, that's a whole process in and of itself, yeah.
Isn't that kind of immoral?
Haunted mirror for sale.
Let me put it this way. Everybody comes across things that they have a need for, okay? I believe that sometimes people come across spiritual phenomenon in an effort to help wake them up to their own natural giftings or to help them understand something better about their life, or it could be a karmic connection that you may have had with this. I mean, I believe in past lives, so this could be a whole nother topic as well. All of these things can happen. I actually came across someone who they had a severe haunting in their home in the UK. They went into a hotel that was built in like the 1500s, and it ended up being someone who they were romantically involved with at the time. I didn't know this. I'm just speaking to her, and I'm like, you're having a lot of migraines. They say migraines over in the UK. They don't say migraines. And so I'm like, did you have them before? Is it a medical issue? And she said, no. I said, does it only happen when you go into one particular area, or if you think about going to the area, even if you don't actually go. She said, yes. I said, do you feel pushed back sometimes? She said, yes. I said, do you feel lightheaded, or you feel a difference in pressure, or you may feel heavier in your feet when you go into the area, a difference in weight? And she said, yes. In my mind, psychically, I'm already picking up that I see the spirit standing there next to her that came across about 6 months ago when she went into this hotel for an event one evening, and she brought the spirit home with her. We're just call the spirit Gerald. I don't remember what his fucking name was, but Gerald seems appropriate. Why not? So I'm thinking, I know this sounds weird, but I know this spirit is having sexual dreams with her. So I'm sitting there, and Gerald is a little bit perverted. I don't even want to repeat the things that Gerald's talking about in a really bad, like, chaff British accent. It's just all over the place. I was like, Gerald, I know they didn't have chavs back when you were alive. He's like, I'm just trying to talk like the kids these days. I'm like, Gerald, I'm in America. You can just be who you are. So I immediately start asking her, I'm like, have you had any weird dreams lately? And she's like, yes. I was like, have you had any orgasms while you were dreaming? And she goes, oh my God. She goes, how did you know? But I always wake up before I see the person's face. But when I wake up, the covers are pulled back at her house. And she lives alone. So I'm like, well, guess what? I was like, you have a previous lover who you cross paths with named Gerald. And she's like, oh my God, I keep seeing a top hat and I keep smelling like this really old smell whenever I walk through my kitchen. You know, spirits love to communicate to people through smells. That's one of the easiest ways to get people's attention. Whether it's a relative that passed away that you may smell like what they smelled like, or a baked good, or a favorite dish that they had, or I had a friend who smoked a lot of pot, and whenever they came around, I would just be driving, and all of a sudden, like, why does my car smell like a skunk? And I knew that it was because that individual was around, because obviously I'm not doing illegal activities while I'm driving or any other time, so there's no logical reason for that to happen.
So you had another story you were going to share.
Yes. Moving from the ghost orgasms and the haunted monks and cursed objects in Fort Lauderdale, now we're all the way on the other side of the country. I'm helping out with a friend for a trade show. I went to the Biltmore Hotel in Phoenix. I've been to Phoenix a couple of times, but I'd never stayed at the Biltmore Hotel that's there in Phoenix, very haunted. So I went to the Biltmore Hotel the first night, and I get there, and my friends, they already know that I don't really like being in super, super old buildings or whatever. So they booked my room in the oldest part of the hotel that was built in like 1929 or some kind of shit like that. They were like, that was the only single bed that they had available. And then they got a space in the renovated brand new construction that was like 10 years old. I immediately walk in this lobby, and there's so much stuff. There's Native American spirits on the land in there. And they're all in like their own space, so they're not interacting with each other, but I can see them like stacked in layers. And immediately I feel like you know, like the 40s, or they had like those swim parties and the crazy swimsuits that they used to wear, in the bathing caps and things like that, and the big cars. Like, I started seeing this, like a moving picture while I'm walking through this lobby. And mind you, I didn't know this was an old hotel when I checked in. I just knew when I got there that, like, this place is fucking haunted. I don't want to sleep here. And I don't have a choice. I can't go to the hotel manager and be like, I'm sorry, there's ghosts here. Can I stay in a room in the new area of the property? I don't think that would go over well with the manager. And I probably might get a call from a wellness visit person or something at that point, too. So I go to my room. And as I'm undressing and changing into my clothes for the evening, there are 3 spirits in there chitter-chattering and trying to watch me as I undress, which was very, very unnerving. And they're like, oh no, he can see us. He can see us, because they're not used to people seeing them. And I'm like, and you can't just go in the bathroom and close the door, because they just float right through the fucking wall, and they're right there wherever you are. So I'm like, I can't sit here with my clothes on the whole night, and I can't undress because of these spirits who are in here. So I had to play a hide and go seek with the spirits, basically. And I sent them on hide and go seek errands as a party trick to get them to go somewhere else while I changed clothes. And then they came back. They're like, okay, we found it. And I was like, oh, that's great. And that way it already changed my clothes. So you got to be creative, you know, because a lot of times you're their entertainment. You would be surprised how many ghosts are like peeping toms out there. It's really crazy.
Okay, so here's an interesting concept that I never thought of before, but I just want to know if you've ever done this. So you can see the spirits, like you said, stacked in layers, watching you from different time periods, different dimensions, I guess. Is there a way that you could have, with potential effort of some sort, changed your vibration to no longer be in the space where they could observe you?
This is going to make me sound even crazier than I already am. So the space where people go to kind of depends on how they died, when they died, and like the images or the memories or the objects that they're tied to. So like a lot of people who were trapped in this hotel, for example, from the 30s to like the 50s when it was in its heyday, their fondest memories are at this hotel, so this is where they're going to go to or be drawn to instead of wanting to go and pass on if they have unfinished business. So they're stuck on this loop that they're there. So that's one layer. And then there's the spirits of the indigenous peoples or other people from wars and things like that that have been from a different time period. And they're not necessarily interacting with the people from the 1960s if they were alive in like 1640 or 1820. So for the most part, it's almost like birds of a feather kind of flock together. Unless you have some spirits which are, let's say, for instance, someone is a practitioner of the psychic arts, or that sounds really crazy, like Doctor Strange, like a practitioner of the psychic arts. If someone was a practicer of a certain religion or certain ritualistic things, and even when they pass on, they may sometimes retain a part of that mastery that they had before, and so they can communicate and interact with different strata. That's a great vocab word. I love that. Then, of course, you've got the different types of hauntings. Like you've got the standing hauntings. You've got the ones stuck on the time loop. You've got the ones who are just like an imprint, who are interacting with you, but you're just seeing them go through the same loop. And then there are the ones who are actually conscious and earthbound spirits and who actually are interacting with their environment. So there's all different kinds of hauntings that are available, which is why there's so many different layers to look at and through. And then in addition to hauntings, you've got non-human spirits. So you've got spirits of the land. You may have cursed spirits. You've got demonic things. You've got angelic spirits. You've got jinn. So there's different types of things out there. And these were not necessarily evil entities. I was just miffed that I was being plagued by peeping toms. And everywhere I went down the hallway, there's these people in these bathing suits, like jumping in the pool. And then they're in this frozen in time moment interacting. And I couldn't go to sleep. And I was genuinely afraid because I've never had that many people, and I've stayed in like an old villa that was part of Henry VIII's estate back in Kent, England before, and I only saw 2 spirits there. This had like 100.
Whoa.
It was very intense for me. I finally was able to make friends with an older woman who was there who was more matronly. I'm starting to observe what are the relationships like. And I'm like, this lady's the head bitch of the crew. She's like Mama Ghost because the other ghosts are reporting to her. And so I'm like, would you please be so kind? You can stay in this room. You can stay in this corner over here. Would you kind of like watch me as I go to sleep and keep other people at bay? She agreed to it. And instantly she set up a parameter and people were not walking in and out of my room all night long. So I was finally able to get some sleep. I moved on. I checked out. I was so happy to leave. But she must have liked me and my snoring and my CPAP machine because when I left, the other ghosts that were around her were all waving goodbye at me too. So,
Oh, good. So
yes.
you thwarted the crowd of ghosts by being the ghost teacher's pet.
Basically, you find the head bitch and you get in good with them. And I use it as a term of endearment, not a derogatory way. I have since mastered the whole like changing while you have your clothes on really quickly, where you put one shirt on and take the other shirt off at the same time and the whole switch is snafaroo.
Oh, yeah.
So then from there we took a really long ass road trip from Phoenix all the way to San Francisco. That's a drive, first of all. I've never been to San Francisco, don't know anything about it, and we're staying at the Westin in downtown San Francisco. I go in. This was worse than the Biltmore.
No.
This was much, much worse than the Biltmore. This building was also built in like the 20s or someplace. You'll have to fact check me because I haven't looked up all of these time periods. You can go and look it up later. But I remember seeing people in like flapper dresses and feathers in their hair, like the one feather. And it's throwing me off because I'm seeing them and I see like two black ghosts. And it's very rare. I don't see a lot of black hauntings. I don't know why. I just don't. So I see two black spirits that are there. And I get in the elevator on my floor. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing people opening their doors because they're thinking people are knocking on their doors. No one's knocking on their doors, but it's the spirits running up and down the hall. So that was my first clue. Then I see these two lovely African American spirits that were sitting in the parlor on the floor, and their sequined outfits. I'm guessing they were performers of that time because, unfortunately, also at that time period, racism still is here, but it was heavier back in that time period as well. And then I see these people, these men in suits walking through with cigars. I'm like, I don't think you can smoke in the building. And then the fire alarm went off, and there was no fire. So I'm sitting there going, what is going on? I get into my room and then I see all these old photos of like Shirley Temple and all these other people. So like this place has been around for a long time, okay? And as soon as I get in, the room is cold, cold. And I know San Francisco was cold at night, but in the middle of July, it's not like 40 degrees, 30 degrees cold where you're shivering and the lights don't just cut out. And I'm like, we really have to teach these ghosts something new because getting cold and turning the lights out gets kind of old after a while. Like, it's the same tricks. But I go in, and then this was not a regular ghost. This was like a demonic poltergeist type being who was in the room waiting for me. This was scarier than the Biltmore because regular spirits are one thing. But when you have an entity, the first thing is when the entity shows itself as like a swirling black mass, that's never positive.
Ooh.
And then all of a sudden it turns into a little girl. Things that are not good love to show themselves as like little girls or little kids. It's like a play on the innocence and to get you to drop your guard and think, well, what's wrong with you, sweetie? And then they go in for the kill shot. I'm like, this is not my fucking first rodeo. I literally started feeling the left side of my face go numb. And that really freaked me out.
Yeah.
It really freaked me out. It was like the beginning symptoms of like a palsy type effect. And I started having shooting pains in my head, like stroke pains. Everything was coming in from my left. And the reason that happens is usually spirits will approach a person on a particular side of their body. It's usually been on my left side when I feel a spirit either trying to come into my space or enter my aura or my energy field. It's on that left side. So when I start feeling left side of my body symptoms, I know that spirit's interacting with me. They're trying to get my attention. But I never had something this severe. It was very scary. So immediately what I had to do was I had to go into a mode of why am I on this thing's radar? And it wasn't actually even because of me. It was because of my friend who was staying in another room. I don't think they know this, but their grandmother went to the black light after they passed away. And so they incarnated in like the demonic energy. And it's not a bad thing. I think we tend to, as humans, think about things as positive, negative, black, and white. But all the spectrums have to exist for a reason. They all are there. Just because we don't understand the spectrums doesn't mean necessarily give us the right to put judgment on them. So that was her choice. She wasn't like dragged down to hell or anything like that. But she felt more comfortable in the black light of hell. So that's where she went. I never told my friend this, but it was like every time she went to a psychic medium or anything, they never could get in contact with the grandmother. And I was like, well, because she's not in heaven. She's not coming through to these angel readers that you're going through. So the first thing I do is I look behind the little girl to see if she's standing next to someone or if someone is attached to her. Because things usually don't travel alone, especially demons, they travel in groups usually. So whenever you see one negative entity, there's always going to be more than one.
Oh, that's why they always say, oh, we exorcised 35 demons from this person. Yeah, you never hear just one,
Yeah, it's
right?
never just one. It's always multiple. So I see this silhouette of an older woman hunched over, and that's what I'm starting to think, okay, so they're feeling the residual energy because I've just been in a car ride with this person from all these long hours, so we're still overlapping energy fields. They're picking up on that grandmother energy from my friend through me. And I see what's going on with the grandmother and that she's worried about her grandson and what's going on. And there was actually some ceremonial magic stuff that took place at this location that kind of trapped this poltergeist here, the demonic frequencies. And it actually was feeding on some of the ghosts because some of the ghosts were afraid to come into the room. That was my other clue when I walked in, that there were ghosts all in the hallways but not in the room itself. It's creepy, but we came to an understanding, at least. And the understanding was that, like, I was not in the room through most of the day, because that was its territory. And then at night when I came in and went to sleep, it would clear out and go somewhere else. I didn't want to know where it went, because I didn't want to feel like I was responsible for where it went. That was its own choice. I didn't give it any other options. So whoever it bothered at night, I'm sure they had wonderful stories to tell, but they were not my stories to share. And that was the compromise, because in that situation, you're really just trying to figure out, what can I get done with the least amount of communication as possible? They're not here to play hopscotch with you and drink tea and scones. Like, you want to get in and get out.
Okay, help me understand. You said that there is a choice when you pass over to go into the black light or go into the light, like people talk about going to the light to heaven. This is a choice that you would make. Why? Why would anybody choose that? Is it a mental illness resonance thing?
No,
Or?
so keep in mind, this is my own belief system. I'm not saying that this is right or incorrect. I'm only going by my experiences that I've experienced and that I've journeyed with. So everyone, I believe, have multiple lifetimes. I believe that time and space is meaningless and everything is a now moment. We're just living in a small segmented portion of that reality. So I believe that all of the lives are happening concurrently. We're just tuning into this one right now. When that happens, people can form relationships in multiple areas, because you're not all your lives are as a human. You could have been in a mystical frequency. You could have been from another planet. I think we put too much judgment on trying to be someone. And when you go and you transition back to spirit, all that shit kind of goes away. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. Your status, what happened, it's kind of like you judge yourself. So all of your actions, they kind of really do play before you. It's like a book of life, and it's not like a movie. It's just like you have a recognition of all of the different lifetimes, your experiences, things have happened. And from that recognition, you kind of pre-plan the next life that you're planning to go into, or where you're choosing to be. People that become earthbound, in my experience, are usually where if it's a traumatic death and they don't know that they died, like it happened really quickly, or like it was a murder or a really bad traumatic accident, or a lot of violence or war or something like that, where it's like stained the area with psychic trauma. Or the second option is where if the family members don't let them go, and so they don't feel like they have permission to leave, the window of the light only stays open for a small period of time. And if you don't catch your jump ship to the light, whether it's the white light or the black light, you're stuck. That can really lead to some spirits becoming earthbound, which is why I think it's important for grievance counselors and things like that for us to realize that we have these rights of people passing on, and it's really for us, it's not for them, and nothing can ever make that pain go away that you're feeling in that moment, but we're really doing a disservice to feel like we have to hold on to that person, because they visit and they make their rounds to every single person that they feel that they need to basically get permission to leave and to transition. And if someone's having a really hard time and they feel like they can't get over it, then that person will choose to stay to comfort that person, even if it means that they're going to miss on their opportunity for a transition. And it kind of is sad, because unless someone else comes along, another psychic or a medium or someone who knows how to help a spirit pass up, they're stuck there for a long period of time. But I digress. So anyway, so people pass on, and then once you make that choice with the light, usually it's about 30-45 day window that they have to stay up there and get acclimated, or down and get acclimated. And then once they get acclimated, then they're free to come and go. That's when people can visit their relatives, they can pop in and see what's going on, all kind of things like that, depending on their station. I'm not going to go into other nitty-gritties, because transitioning and things like that is a whole other topic as well.
That was a lot. So are you doing this work professionally now, mediumship?
I am not. I used to be a professional psychic and medium for a couple of years. I actually took classes because people love to see degrees behind your name. I paid my several $1,000s for like a year's long worth of study and practicum exercises and all of this stuff to be quote unquote official. And for me, it wasn't fulfilling. I feel like life is for the living. I feel like we're all here for our own story and our own chance of growth. And a lot of people who were coming to a psychic or a medium, they're stuck in the past or they're relying on someone else to make decisions or choices for them rather than taking the chances. And if you're not taking the opportunity to write your own story and you're asking for someone else to kind of provide the steps along the way, you're missing out on learning your lessons. You're missing out on your own growth and development. And you're kind of giving your power away to someone else. And to me, I feel like that was dirty money, because I felt like I was only enabling a fix. So I stopped, and so I worked with some friends of mine and people that have paranormal issues, like giving them clues to help them with resolving their paranormal issues, things like that. But as far as like doing psychic work or mediumship work or giving readings, I don't do that anymore.
We need to just alert the ghosts that you're retired.
I'm working on my invisibility badge. Maybe in a year from now, I'll have it down pat. We'll see.
Okay.
Ghost Witness Protection Program. Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, you're still embracing this for your personal usage as far as being able to communicate with spirits when they're affecting you personally.
Well, I don't think he has much of a choice.
Yeah.
You know, if
sounds
you've
that
got
way.
peeping Tom ghosts in your hotel room, you gotta figure out how to deal with them.
I just ignore them. It's fine. They get what they get.
Like, this is what you want. Here you go.
Ghostly warriors and exhibitionists.
Frantz, this has been so amazing to talk to you again. You have wonderful stories and you have such a great insight. We can learn so much from you. It's always so much fun to talk to you. I mean, I always feel like my mind is expanded and a little bit blown every time I chat with you. Frantz, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's always good to see you. Y'all have been listening to Frantz, who is a psychic medium, even if he doesn't claim so much all the time, but he definitely is. He's very gifted, and we are honored to know him and to get to talk to him and share his story. So thank you yet again, Frantz.
All right, you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Painted Loves, what do you think? Would you have sex with a ghost? Would you stay in an Airbnb with a haunted statue? If so, you're probably already having a spooky day.
Homespun Haints is hosted by Becky Kielimnik and Diana Doty, and produced by Homespun Haints Media LLC. Editing and music by Becky Kielimnik. Show notes by Diana Doty. If you have a ghost story and you'd like to be considered as a guest for this podcast, please visit our website at homespunhaints.com/submit.